Hi, hello everybody. Welcome back to this 14th audio. In this audio, we would be talking about what are the signals body gives or what are the early symptoms of diabetes type 2. Now, one of the biggest problem about diabetes 2 and this is one of the biggest problem is that it goes undetected. So we know so many people know that they are suffering from this disease, but I would say that at least twice that number do not know that they are having this disease. And I'm not talking about pre-diabetes. I am talking about people who have a glucose level of 200, 250, 300 and still never even think that they are having a problem. Of course, one of the main reasons is that they don't get checked. In India, this culture of periodical checking as a preventive measure is coming now, but earlier I don't think anybody used to go when he feels perfectly healthy. Not that he is healthy, but very few people who feel that they are perfectly healthy would go to a pathology lab and get tested. That culture is changing now, but because of that, what happens is that this disease remains undetected. Many times, nowadays people go for some other treatment, say eye treatment or extraction of a tooth, and then the doctor insists that even for such a minor work, they need to check the glucose level. That also shows you how important it is, because if you have glucose level, then any cut is dangerous, and all these procedures involve some kind of cut. So the doctor insists, which is a good thing. I know many people who went for a tooth extraction and they came to know that they have a high glucose level first time in their life. So the point is, unlike other other diseases, like say even other metabolic diseases. So suppose you are having some advanced condition of CVD, then you will notice that you are not able to run effortlessly. You get tired, you get breathless. If you have respiratory diseases also, so in all these cases there is some indication. But in case of diabetes, there is no obvious pain, there is no obvious discomfort. Your daily routine is going on without any problem. You don't have any fever, so you don't even think that you have any health issue. This is the reason why diabetes type 2 is called killer disease. BP also, because BP also there is no external symptom. So although I very much advise that at the age of 18 people should get many pathological tests done so that they have a base created, so they know that around age of 18 to 20 people are mostly in a good health, their biomarkers are good, their weight is good, so that is sort of an ideal thing. Even for obesity, I always say that just think when you entered college, so when you entered IIT, what was your weight? Now that weight is that is the weight that you can hope to get back even at this stage. So as I said, that it is better. And in case of diabetes, actually, you don't even need to go to path lab. Now this glucometer is available and it's very easy to use, not very painful. These modern pens hardly give you any pain, just a prick, like some ant-esque bitten you. So I would advise that even people who are healthy, who may not have any glucose problem, they should keep a glucometer at home, not expensive at all. And maybe they need not check every month, they can check every year, whatever, but do check. So that is the best way. But now let us see that for whatever reasons, there are some people who don't like to go to path lab. They say that okay, jo hona hai wo hona hai, abhi if something wrong, then might as well not know about it. Although I don't agree with that philosophy. I agree that if there is something wrong with you, it's better to know it so that you can take steps. But then there are many people, whenever So I tell some of the friends, अरे you check your insulin, whatever. अरे नहीं है, ज़्यादा है तो है, अभी क्या करेंगे? You are saying that there is no medicine for insulin, then I don't want to get checked. Similarly for heart condition. So as I said, I don't agree to this philosophy, but I respect it. It is up to you. So what I'm trying to do in this audio is that I'm going to just make a list of symptoms which are early symptoms of diabetes. Now let me warn you that you may have many of these symptoms and still may not have diabetes, and you may not have many of these even if you have a diabetes. So this is not a clear-cut test on the basis of which you can say, oh, I have a diabetes, oh, I don't have a diabetes. But generally what it means is if you have many of those symptoms, then you should definitely think about going to lab and get your glucose and insulin level tested. Yeah? Okay, good. Yeah, now this video I'm going to be very happy because in all the audios I have done so far, I always ran out of time. There is something I wanted to say, but I have kept 40 minutes as the outside limit, beyond which I will stop that and make a new audio. Also 40 minutes is what can be accommodated in that 8 MB limit that Google has put on attachments. So anyway, I'm very sure that this audio is not going to last that long. So good for me, good for you. Yeah. So now let's get started with the list. Now obviously there are two things wrong with you when you have diabetes. One is high insulin and another is high glucose level. Now high insulin, at least in this initial period till it goes beyond say value of 25-30 fasting insulin, it hardly gives any symptoms, so it's very, very, very difficult, except that once it goes beyond 10 or so, you start putting on weight. So that is the only indication. But glucose level when it starts increasing, that means goes say around 100 or more, yeah, sure. Then that starts giving some early symptoms. Yeah. So now let's run through the list. I'm not going to explain all the factors because I think almost all of them are self-explanatory. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a PDF document because audio, you will listen and then it will be difficult to refer it back. It is much easier at later stage if you want to refer back, then the PDF file helps very much. So that is the purpose why I have spent some time in preparing the PDF file. So most of it won't require any explanation. Wherever there is something interesting to say, only that I will point out. So biggest is of course the overweight, being overweight. You know that there is a very, very strong correlation between overweight and diabetes. So if you are obese, then the chances that you have diabetes are something like 60-70%. Of course, if you are thin doesn't mean that you don't have diabetes. And that's true about every factor. So I'm not going to say for every factor that the other thing may not be necessarily true, etc. That's a disclaimer, general disclaimer. Yeah. So if you are overweight, that means say if your BMI is more than say 30, then definitely you should get checked for diabetes. Even if it is 25 or more, you should be little careful. Now. The second is urination. You feel like urinating maybe more number of times than you used to earlier or compared to healthy men. Why? Because when the glucose level goes beyond 180 or so, then that's too much of a level. So kidney sort of starts leaking the glucose in urine. And since you have to, there is only so much concentration that you can have glucose in urine. It cannot be very high concentration. So naturally you have to urinate more. So that is the reason. So if you suddenly start feeling the need or urge for urination more, then that's the indication that there is something wrong. You may be having diabetes. Now, why this 180 figure? Now, Anil asked me this question. So I'm sure since I'm going to have some time in this audio at the end, I will try to explain you the evolutionary reason about this 180 business. Yeah. Now, interestingly, how many people in early generations used to find out about diabetes is that they were not having this kind of system of flushing. So in earlier system, you will spread some drops somewhere on the floor or somewhere, and you will observe that within few minutes immediately some ants come to your urine. Why? Because there is glucose. There is glucose in your urine. So ants come to seek that as a food. So if that happens, then 100% you are diabetic. Yeah. Now in this generation, with our modern flushing system, rarely is that you spill some urine outside. So you will not really benefit from this. But in early generation, it was really the way many people find out. Now, if you feel excessively tired or fatigued without a particular cause, now if you have come back from exercise or from gym, or if you've taken a long big walk, or if you have gone swimming and if you feel tired, then that is nothing to do with diabetes. But if you're not doing any exercise, nothing, not exerting yourself, and even then if you feel tired regularly, then yes, then you must explore the possibility whether you are diabetic. Now, one of the sure shot ways to find out actually insulin resistance is that you feel hungry within 2-3 hours of some food intake. In fact, the best way is that to find insulin resistance is that when you are not feeling hungry, but for some reason, maybe it's your time, you're going to go out, so you need to sort of fill up your stomach, or you are watching some movie, you want to eat up something, whatever. So you're not really hungry, but you eat something, especially carbs, and then within few minutes, something like within 30 minutes, you feel hungry. Where earlier, if you had not eaten, you would not have felt hungry even at that time. And the reason is, of course, that when you eat that glucose or carbs, it triggers your insulin, and now you are insulin resistant. So the insulin doesn't put your glucose into the body, but now this higher level of insulin triggers we have seen, it's a hunger hormone. So if there is unutilized insulin in your blood, then it will give you feeling of hunger. So you will feel like eating hungry. Feel like eating. Yeah. So that's a good indication. Craving for sweet food, that is also an indication. Blurred vision or other vision problem, that's sure shot. It's not a early diabetes actually. It's a advanced diabetic stage. If you are having blurred vision, or that's called retinopathy. It's a definitely advanced case of diabetes. Number 9 is swelling on feet. Now number 10 is cut doesn't get so healed easily. That is the reason why your dentist will insist that you have glucose values known. The blood doesn't clot easily. The scab doesn't form on a clot on your cut. So all these give indication that you are diabetic. Now, next lot is 11, 12, etc. The infection, especially the skin infection. More than that, even urinary tract infection. See, because if you are having more than 180 glucose and your urine is having glucose content, then since we have seen that the bugs, germs, they really love glucose. So you will get, the chances that you will get infected are far higher if you are diabetic and leaking glucose through your urine. So if you get frequent urinary tract infection, then yes, there is a very high probability that you are diabetic. Now other types of infections also, frequent yeast infections or respiratory infection, kidney infection, all kinds of infection. If you get them more than what normally a healthy person will get and without any reason, then yes, then again you should be careful that and investigate that whether you have diabetes. Now numbness in body parts, itching of skin, tingling of skin, these are also indicators. Of course, this itching of skin and tingling of skin, especially tingling of skin, could be because of high blood pressure also. Now next is problems in food movement. This food flow depends on our nerve sensing, and nerve sensitivity is one of the early damaging thing that happens in diabetes. So you lose this nerve sensitivity, so you will experience a problem in the food movement. Unexplained weight loss or weight gain. Now this is little funny, isn't it? You can have both this. You can have weight loss also. You can have weight gain also. So if you are leaking too much sugar in too much glucose in urine, then your body may not be getting sufficient fuel and you will lose weight. On the other hand, if you are at a stage where you are having insulin resistance, but the glucose level is not very high, then at that stage you will gain weight, because insulin will convert the available glucose into fat excessively. Erectile dysfunction, loss of sexual pleasure. This is quite obvious, isn't it? Because you need a very good, the blood supply increases very much to the organ during erection, right? And there is a problem in supplying enough blood to your penis. So you will have that dysfunction, even dryness of vagina in women you will experience. Then you will feel lethargic for no reason again. And then when you feel lethargic, you will become a couch potato, and that will increase your weight. It will increase your diabetes. So it's a vicious circle. Now there are some factors which are not symptoms, and there is nothing you can do about them. So these are uncontrollable. But if you have one of them, you should be even more careful and get tested. Now these are race plays a role, and unfortunately Asians and Indians, we are quite more prone to be diabetic. So age also matters. So higher the age, more is the risk, because or your metabolism slows down, corrective actions slow down. So if you are above 50, then yes, then you should look out for diabetes even at the smallest indicator. Now there is something called gestational diabetes. Many women, when they give birth to offspring, they develop higher glucose level. It's called gestational diabetes. Now in most cases, okay, this goes once delivery is done and up 2 days after delivery. This is a temporary phenomenon, and nowadays during childbirth, doctors do keep a watch on this level. But if this level is high, then you should be careful in measuring that level for some time, because the chances that you will get stuck with that high level are quite high. And especially if your child weight is more than 9 pounds, then do be very much more careful. Now if you have say double chin, heavy neck, double fat layer back of the neck, so these are all actually not high glucose indications, these are high lipid indications, but they all go hand in hand, Then finally, if you have any other disorders, known disorders, for whatever reasons you are checked, and so you got checked for whatever reason and you found out you have a CVD or even blood pressure. So out of those 5-6 diseases we talked about in metabolic syndrome, if you have 2 of them, then you should be very careful, because the chances that you have diabetes are quite high. Yeah. So I think I have run through all the list. I hope it was useful. Now let me again emphasize that if you have few of them doesn't mean you have diabetes. You have none of them doesn't mean that you don't have a diabetes. I would say that if you have more than 5 of these indicators, then you should be quite careful. Yeah. Okay, now we have a few minutes. So I think I can spend 5 minutes and even then make this audio smaller in time. Yeah? So I'm going to talk about that evolution thing and about this sugar leaking beyond 180. Now I'm not only going to answer that question will only take 1 or 2 minutes. I'm going to explain you how to reason about all such doubts that you get, so that if you get any doubt about how come this thing was not taken care of by evolution, then how you should think, what questions you should ask. So I'm going to explain that to you. And I hope that it will all be entertaining, you will learn, and also it will be useful, because you have any such further doubts, then in future you will know how to think about it. Yeah. Okay. So the so the first thing, as to now in this case the doubt is like this, that if the level the good level is less than 100, right? So why doesn't body leak glucose as soon as it reaches 100? Now that way, then naturally you will not have high glucose in your blood, and the weight also will be taken care of, because all the excess thing that you are eating, instead of they going to fat, it will go out through urine, right? Now obviously this is not as it seems, because kidney, it will put lot of load on kidney, and we didn't evolve. So just think about, just take yourself back 50,000 years back, or 100,000 years back, and think that what was the condition, how our genetic structure was there, how this whole system was working, and now consider that if a mutation occurred at that time, where at 100 you start leaking glucose in the blood, will it have any advantages, or it will have disadvantages? And the advantage and disadvantage is in terms of reproductive capability. Okay, so now consider that 100,000 years back. Now the problem there was, very rarely people would have excess calories, in fact they would like to store the excess calories whenever they get into fat, right? So suppose on one day they eat lot of glucose or lot of food. Now there is no guarantee that in next week, in next few days, you will get anything to eat. So suppose you have, if there is a gene which is predominant and that is leaking out glucose, what will happen? Yes, on that day your glucose level will remain okay, but then next 2, 3, 4 days you will not have any fuel, you will not get any food. Therefore, the mutation that converted this glucose into fat and stored it as a fat had a better survival advantage. If you didn't have that, the chances that you will die before childbearing age were quite high. Therefore, the mutation where we became very efficient converter of glucose into fat, that had a much better advantage, much more advantage. That means that gene, that mutation will have better chance at producing children, offspring, much more. So that became a predominant gene. So that is the reason. And also, suppose that you want to constantly excrete your glucose as soon as it reaches 100, I think it's a very bad design, because when you are shortage of nutrient, what is the point in eating and then discharging without it being properly used? Also, this discharge is not without cost. It has a heavy cost. Heavy cost in terms of energy, because this it is not that we call it a filtering, we filter out the toxins, but it is not really filtering in the way we understand. In filtering we separate the solid or something from liquid, and the liquid goes up and solid is there on the sieve, right? So here we are not separating the insoluble part, we are separating the soluble part. And in soluble part, if you have a compartment, one compartment has a water with say 300 glucose level, another compartment has a water of 0, then what will happen? The water from 0 will flow to water with 300, isn't it? It is so it will get diluted on the other side. It will not happen that there will be concentration, increase in glucose concentration in the other compartment. For that to happen, so if you have some urine with say 150 or 250 of glucose, and you don't want to discharge everything, because then there will be a lot of loss of water. So you would like to concentrate it and then discharge it. In that case, simple filtration, the way we think about filter, it doesn't happen. This is called osmotic pressure filtration. That means water flows out of concentrated medium into a dilute medium, and therefore the compartment A, which has a higher concentration, becomes even more concentrated, and the other compartment B will have pure water. The pure water will get recycled in the body, and the concentrated water will get discharged in the urine. Now, this osmotic pressure, it requires a very creation of very high volume of pressure. Many atmospheres, that is very costly. It requires a lot of energy, and also you will require a large kidney just so that you can give out this glucose. So it just doesn't make any sense that if there was a mutation which would excrete glucose at the level of 100, 120, it just not has any advantage. In fact, it has many disadvantages. Correct? So now the question is, why does it leak 180? So there what happens is, if your glucose in blood level goes beyond 180, now there are serious health issues, as we have seen, because glucose is toxic, right? So when it is toxic, at that level, if you don't excrete it, it will keep on building. 180 will become 200, it will become 250, and then you will die soon. Maybe you will die before you produce enough offspring. So now, if at all if there is a mutation which doesn't filter it at 100 but does filter it at 180, now that mutation has a advantage in terms of reproductive ability. Yeah? There you will find that the mutation we did not filter at all, no matter what the glucose level is, that mutation will be less efficient in offspring reproduction. Yeah? Now, when I say about this offspring reproduction, let me tell you that this advantage doesn't have to be a very big advantage. That means it is not like that there is an existing mutation, existing genome, which say on an average produces, say, at that time they used to produce, how many survive is a different thing, but without any methods to stop reproduction, a woman would normally produce something like, say, 7-8 offspring in her fertile age, that period, right? So it doesn't mean that to have a good advantage so that the mutation will propagate more, you need to have say 10, 12, 13, 14 offspring. Then only you have sufficient advantage in terms of propagation. No, even if the mutation has, say, 10% or even 5% advantage in terms of reproductive ability, then even that 5% advantage in, say, span of 100 generations will become a dominant. That means if you have only 1% people with that mutation, which has a 5% advantage in reproductive ability, in 100 generations, that 1% will become 70%. You do the math, and that is why it takes very long time. So even if some mutation has an advantage, doesn't mean that in next 10 generations that will take over. No, it doesn't, because unless it has a terribly great advantage, so that is why it will take hundreds. So normally I would say that for a mild mutation which has a somewhat advantage in reproductive ability, takes something like 10,000 years to become a dominant gene in that society. Yeah. So mostly it will take, say, 50,000 years, maybe 100,000 years. So that is how it goes. Yeah. Now there is another finer point. Now sometimes the gene may be very harmful, even then may not get eliminated, and sometimes the gene will be very advantageous, even then it may not get selected. And for that, I had mentioned it once, you will need to understand how the gene splitting is done, and that is done in groups, not take that 10,000 genes. So each gene is not chosen to be replicated or not. So this will need a little understanding of genes. But let me just tell you in 2 minutes. All of you know that you have two sets in your chromosomes, right? One comes from your mother, one comes from your father. Now, suppose your mother has two sets M1 and M2, and your father has two sets F1 and F2. So how now one of them has to go to your offspring. So it is not that full M1 goes or full M2 goes or full F1 or full F2 goes. Each one is it gets spliced. Either what will happen is, for any particular gene, one set will come from either M1 M2 or from F1 F2. Yeah. Then the next one. So like that, you will have again now two sets coming from your father. So from mother, M1 M2 may say there will be some gene selected from either M1 or M2. Next will be again from M1 and M2. Third will be again from M1 and M2. Fourth will be again from M1 and M2. Like that, 10,000. And this is not done on individual gene level, it's done on group level. And then similarly with the father, and that's how the offspring will have its own two sets. So since it's done group wise, if a gene which is somewhat powerful, the mutation which is somewhat powerful happens to lie very near to another gene which turns out to be very harmful, then that gene being very harmful, it will get deselected, and there's this somewhat useful gene will also get deselected because of that. And the other way around also. If you have some mutation which is slightly harmful, but it happens to be very near another mutation which is highly beneficial, then because it is near that whole group will get selected. So that is why some of the mutations which should have got deselected don't get deselected, and some of the mutations which should have got selected don't get selected. Yeah, funny thing, right? But that's what we are. I hope that in such a short time I could give you at least some understanding of how all these things happens. Evolution, gene go hand in hand. I really desire that at some time I will be able to do a separate session, one on evolution, one on gene, and we'll make it voluntary. Yes, so those who are not interested in getting this knowledge, they need not listen to that. But I think, I hope that most of you will give it a try. It's fascinating. Yeah. Okay then. Now let me repeat that this is just a guide. Don't wait for these indications. Since testing, especially testing at home, using glucometer has become very easy and very inexpensive. Even if you are healthy and not anywhere near diabetes, do keep a glucometer at home. Maybe you test only once a year, but do test. Yeah, because there is nothing like early detection. That is the best way to find any disorder. So yeah, with that, let me close. Great. Still I have exceeded 30 minutes. But anyway, that's because we talked about this glucose leaking in the blood, in urine, right? Okay, then let me close. Now, when I say that these tests are not enough, then naturally it means that we need to do lab tests. So next audio will be on the lab test. It will be very interesting audio because it will show you that all the tests that you were doing to detect diabetes are not I won't say they're useless tests. They give you some information, not enough information. There are far better tests. So I will go through what are the tests that are used and what are the tests that should be used, and we will go into the merits of each test. Yeah, that will be the next audio. I am very sure that that audio will be most useful. It will also tell you those people who are asking me about what tests they should do, especially insulin test. So that audio will give you answer to all those questions. Yeah. So I am planning to put up that audio today itself so that all of you have both these audios available to listen to on the weekend, because if you are working, it's difficult to get time during the weekdays. That's why I'm going to make a little more effort to put up that audio in the today also. And then there are two more audios which I want to make on diabetes. One will be, now you have understood most of the basic thing that I wanted to tell you about diabetes. So we will have one audio on why diabetes is so dangerous. So we'll explore the connection between diabetes and all other diseases, and then I'll make another last for present time audio, making a wrap up, just a summary, and then we will take a gap and we will start go to diet and about what to do about this diabetes. So far, after this set of talks, we will understand what the diabetes is. I think you will understand that what diabetes is far better than the doctor you are currently consulting. But still we are not answered what to do about it. But that we will not do right now, because for that you need to understand many things about diet. So we will go to diet. Also, there are many healthy people who are waiting for the diet part to start. So we will go to diet. We'll do basic part of that, and then based on that we will evolve a strategy for diabetes. And sometime in between we will also talk about obesity, because the strategy that we will evolve will be more or less same for diabetes and obesity. So that's a general plan. Okay then, thank you very much for your patient listening. Please, and the feedback, when I'm not getting enough. Of course there are some people, but same people keep on regularly giving me feedback, and most of you have not given feedback. Again, I'm worried what is happening. You're not finding time, you're not finding it interesting, you are finding you're not understanding. Either I'm too good a teacher and you understood everything, no doubts at all, or I'm a lousy teacher and you feel there's no point in asking this man any question. I don't think he can answer. Yeah? So please, I'm fearful of the possibility of number 2 possibility. So come out, ask your question. Earlier I was asking only for suggestions. Okay, you don't want to give suggestion, but I'm very sure that questions, how come you don't have any questions? Whenever I gave these big talks, 3-hour talks, the main complaint was that there was not enough time for questions. And now you have all the freedom in the world. Please don't feel that you will be considered stupid by asking some question. First of all, no question is stupid. Yeah? No question is stupid. Second thing is that this is not an area where you are an expert. This is not an area where you were taught any of this. So complete ignorance is nothing. There's no stigma. I mean, you didn't know anything because it was not taught to you. So it is all right to ask something which is a very preliminary thing, which there's nothing that you had to know, And another thing is, there is a good possibility, there is a 95% possibility, let me tell you, that something is bothering you, it is bothering 95% of the other people also. And all of you are not coming forward saying, कि अरे मैं तो कैसे पूछूं, मेरे को डर लगता है, लोग क्या कहेंगे. तो सब लोगों को ये डर लगता होगा अगर आपको लगता है. There is not much difference in your intellectual level. Come on, if you are from IIT, who can doubt your intelligence? There is a certificate you have, right? I mean, so don't worry. Nobody is going to think you are stupid for asking any stupid question. And ultimately, what is the choice? The choice is ask a question and feel stupid for 5 minutes, or don't ask a question and remain stupid for remaining life. Now you choose. You choose. I would choose asking questions. So please come forward with questions, because that is one way I also learn. When you ask me question, it sort of makes me think if it's a good question, and that's the way I improve, right? So unless you ask questions, you will feel you are understanding all this. You may not really do that. Yeah. So please, and if you really feel fearful about asking question and revealing your name, then although I prefer that you put your question on the group, if that is the reason why you are not asking question, then send a question to me anonymously. I will give that question to the group without revealing your name. Oh, come on, we are reaching 40 in this audio also. Okay, so let me stop. All the best, and wait for the next audio. Thank you very much.